Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Indian Air Force, a story of staggering collapse, chronic failures and strategic delusion. Literally a crippling Air Force. With over 2,200 aircraft crashes since 1947 and more than 1,200 pilot deaths, excluding the wartime losses. The Indian Air Force today stands not as a symbol of power, but as a case study in dysfunction. Despite expensive foreign purchases like Rafales, France refused to share source codes, which are very vital to have combat capabilities, and continued Hindustan Aeronautics Limited delays in light combat aircraft like Tejas production, expose actually India's technological dependence and strategic vulnerability. India is currently flying with 31 squadrons against the sanctioned strength of 42 squadrons. Out of 31 even, many nearing obsolescence. By 2035, nearly half of the Indian Air Force could vanish. We examine a force that caught between aging platforms, delayed indigenous projects, institutional infighting, and a civilian leadership that's either indifferent or inept. From the fighter jet shortfalls to the farcical claims of air victories, the Indian Air Force narrative is now more a myth than a might. To talk on this very important subject of strategic significance, we have in our studios Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid. He is the strategic affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence. And with him, Air Commodore retired Raza Haider. He is the director at Center for Aerospace and Security Studies, CAS, Islamabad. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. My first question to you, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, sir. It's no doubt that accidents happen when humans operate machines, including the aircrafts. But Indian Air Force had set a lot of records, really. When it comes to the accidents, mainly because of the human errors, like around 2,200 aircraft crashed since 1947 to mid-2025 this year. More than 1,200 pilots lost their lives, and their losses are excluding the wartime losses. What this shows actually, the lack of professionalism, inadequate training, incapable pilots, or aircraft gelling, means ineffective integration, or reasons are entirely different?
No, I think the reasons are almost the same that you have enumerated. But before we proceed on this topic, may I clarify that I hold Indian Air Force this downsize not as a contempt, but as a concern. Because I belong to an Air Force this thing, and there are universal principles, concerns and factors that affect every Air Force. And I acknowledge that Indian Air Force is a professional Air Force. However, there are deep-seated systemic kind of downgrades that Indian Air Force is facing. First, most of the crashes that have been reported so far, all of them have been investigated, and it has come out that more than 50% of the cases were the human error. This directly points out to their lax training for pilots and all that. So then there are about 30% or so cases that are technical failures. They are common, but then again, human factors come in, because who is to maintain the standard of aircraft technically? They are the engineers and all that. So hardly any time there is a machine that just explodes. No, there is a system behind it, and that can be controlled. Then some percentage of those air crashes have been attributed to bird hits. It's
but those are
negligible, and also the inclement weather or something. Again, it points out that the Indian meteorological services and training of their pilots to handle the bad weather and to do the instrument flying, that points out to that there's something of that sort. So all in all, basically the human errors and the technical errors and the natural or error the circumstances, they can be avoided by training, by diligence, and by thinking ahead of the situation and all that. The system that you are operating requires certain regimes and standardizations that you have to incorporate.
But at least that mentality also requires, rather than just put...
it is a mentality. I mean, ultimately it comes to the quality of individuals, human beings.
Rather pointing fingers towards Pakistan, they have to take their business in account, really.
They have to become an effective air force, and they have to overcome these internal systemic limitations that they have.
Obviously, obviously. Air Commodore retired Raza Haider Sahab. Over the years, there were more than 50 Jaguars crashes since 1979, when India actually procured around 160 of these jets. Around 110 are in inventory right now, out of which 83 are operational in around 6 squadrons or 5.5 squadrons, with 2 or to 3 aircrafts actually crash per year. This is the average of Jaguars only. So, despite of Indian Air Force display attack ranging inertial navigation, that was kind of a Darren system they were actually employing at that time, when we have also some sort of a Rose project retrofit of strike element regarding our Mirages, Mirage 3, Mirage 5. That offered not much difference over the years, because those crashes, those accidents, the human errors, those all have actually elaborated that those changes what they have made in their avionics or some sort of a flight safety or all that not worked really.
So first of all, Faisal Sahab, thank you very much for inviting me in this program. Secondly, you touch a very good topic of Indian Air Force crisis and the issues, and especially you talk about the crash rate in the Jaguars.
Definitely.
And that is not only the Jaguars, in the MiG-21 also, the same issue. But if particularly we talk about the Jaguar, actually Indian Air Force is encountering a dilemma of aging aircraft, and Jaguar is also one of them. Jaguar,
definitely most of their jets are over 40 years of age.
Yes, really. In fact, Indian Air Force, half of the Indian Air Force should be in the museum,
yes,
those aircraft.
Of course, they are trying hard to have that.
So Jaguar, if we talk about the Jaguars were procured in 1979, so almost 46 years from now. And generally a life of an aircraft is ranging from 30 to 40 years. There's a structural life also, and the fatigue life. So Jaguars, when they procured from the UK, it's actually a joint venture of UK and France.
Yes.
Jaguar is a
Anglo-French aircraft.
French word. In 1970, they were around 160, but 50 of them were crashed, and many of them were fatal also.
Yes.
And currently only 83 are operational in 6 squadrons. It means they have a big fleet of Jaguars till date, after having 46 years of service. Now, what can be the reasons? You talk about the Darren modification also on the Jaguars, like a Rose modification on the Mirages. Darren is an avionics modification.
Yes.
They have the ESA radar in that and further enhanced avionics. But the issue is of the structure. Actually, structure has a life. And I told you as before that it's generally have a 30 to 35 years of structural life, and the fatigue has a life. Engine has a life.
Yes.
So by installing a new avionics, you cannot make a new aircraft actually. So in my opinion, most of the aircraft crashes are related to the either maintenance or the human errors, as the sir also.
And you are rightly pointing out, because most of the times you have a takeoff weight, and that depends upon your frame and engine.
Frame and engine.
So
These are the main core, and these are the main reasons for the crashes as well. Otherwise, the crashes are generally not from the avionics or the weapon because of the avionics or weapon. They are generally because of the airframe and the engines or the systems.
Yes, no doubt about that. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid sahab, how do you see Indian Air Force operating around 55 Mirages 2000 or 3 squadron at least? Have issues with the spares, and also in rebuilding such aircrafts to enhance their lifespan for another 5 to 10 years? What the Indians have their plans actually? Meanwhile, India is trying to have second-hand Mirage 2000s from the countries like Qatar, like Taiwan, like Greece, and might be they have the deal already done but not signed yet for 18 Mirage 2000 with Greece to raise a separate 4th squadron, because of these are the different variants rather than the Mirage 2000, what India is actually using. So how do you see that? Because they are feeling it real difficult to even operate Mirages, and these are from the same company, Dassault, from where they are actually operating most of the aircrafts, like Jaguars, like they have Mirage 2000 and now Rafales.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a very good thing, and what a coincidence that Indian Air Force is following the same philosophy and strategy that Pakistan Air Force had done in early
Definitely,
late 80s,
like
and
American
early
origin
90s,
aircrafts and all that.
And no, it was Mirage.
Oh yes,
But,
Mirages.
we inducted Mirage in about 1967, and a few years back, mashallah, we have had 50 years of Mirage operation,
Yes.
and now it is plus 5 years, 55 years of Mirage operations in Pakistan Air
Yes.
Force. Over a period of time, the PF developed Mirage rebuild capability.
Yes.
That we could, you could strip off each and every nut and bolt of the aircraft and then replace the ones that needed replacement, do the x-rays of the structures and everything, and if the wing replacement is required. So I hope the Indians have first achieved this capability within IEF for the Mirage.
But Indians are
2000.
reluctant to do that because they are not going to rebuild that.
They have already lost that window.
Yes,
And you know,
yes.
we did it in early 90s, and they are doing it now.
And Mirages 3 and 5, comparatively, although it was a real hard work done by Pakistan, but it was a bit easier task as compared to the Mirage 2000. Because it is, you know that it is the most latest machine.
Mirage 2000 is an
And then
advanced,
lots of other variants also
advanced
came.
aircraft,
Yes.
and you are absolutely right that the challenge to rebuild and to get the benefit of the used Mirages.
And that window also they lost because of the Vajpayee government, because at that time France offered them to have a transfer of technology and have some sort of factories over there, and they can reproduce that.
And Mirage 2000 is a very good aircraft. And I agree with you, and this has been the continuous story that Indian Air Force seems to lose on the opportunity and time.
Yes.
The thing that they should have done about 30 years back, they are coming on it now. And of course, it is a new option, and it will have all the difficulties and requirements that you have enumerated in case they want to upgrade and sustain and add to their Mirage 2000 fleet. But what a good aircraft Mirage 2000
It is, no doubt about that. Rafale is also a very brilliant aircraft. But unfortunately, it's up to Indians basically how they employ it, because J-10C might be technology-wise against the European technology. J-10C might be bit less than that, but how it was employed,
Absolutely.
how it was basically the leadership and the quality of our training and all that actually contributed in that. Air Commodore Raza Haider Sahab, isn't India's continued procurement of Rafale jet, despite France outrightly refused to share the mission system source code, a clear sign of strategic helplessness, exposing the Indian Air Force growing dependence on the foreign powers and its inability to develop or operate truly sovereign combat capabilities? Because we have seen over the years, and we have got it from the Indian air chiefs, what they are actually saying.
Yeah, Faisal sir, very good question, and I will answer it in two parts: source codes and the self-reliance part. The Rafale is undoubtedly a very good aircraft. It's a very potent aircraft, top of the line fighters of the world. Somehow Indians
It
could
depends
not,
upon who is actually
somehow
flying.
Indians could not employ it well.
Yes.
So there is no issue with the Rafale. But coming to the source code, yes, source codes are the issues, and that
Same
was,
might be the French were thinking.
yes,
that,
they
to
must be.
whom
They
the
must be.
aircraft is actually.
Yes. Source code issue highlighted actually almost 3-4 days before the 7th of May encounter. It was around 4th May, there was a news in the Indian channels and some international media that India has asked source code from the France. So what is a source code? Source code is actually a program, software program, which is used to integrate the avionics and the weapons. And otherwise the engines, flight control system, EW, all are also integrated through that source code software program. And that is generally lies with the OEM because of the intellectual property rights. And once they sell the aircraft, they don't sell the source codes. They keep this option of integrating the further weapons with them. So why India wanted that on that 3-4 days before the encounter, because probably India wanted to integrate some new weapons on the Rafale. For that, they were dependent on those source codes. So they asked France for those source codes, which France declined naturally. And they could not integrate the right weapons probably on the Rafale, and on that day, and the Rafale were having the Meteor and Mika, which could not compete with the PL-15 of the J-10C. And that become a very sore point between these two countries also. And that comes the importance of the self-reliance. And still France is not agreeing to provide the source codes. Still, in case they want to integrate the new weapon on the Rafale, Indians, they will go to the DASU, and DASU will actually integrate. They will not give the IP of the source codes. This gives the importance of self-reliance and technological sovereignty. The countries which have the self-reliance of those technologies, they have the technological sovereignty, only those countries can integrate the new weapons on the aircraft. Otherwise, they will remain dependent on the OEMs. And our JF-17 Thunder is one of the example for this, that we have the full capability, full capacity, full autonomy to modify, integrate any weapon on JF-17.
Definitely, we got out of that dilemma through which we passed in 80s and 90s, really.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
So, alhamdulillah, we are far ahead from Indians right now. Viewers, you have many times you have listened the Indian Air Chief, and he is always very vocal about what are the shortcomings within the Indian Air Force. Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, we have his soundbite, that what he says about light combat aircraft that belongs to the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, that is Mark 1 and then Mark 1A, and then in future what they are talking about Mark 2 and the AMCA, that is basically the advanced fighter jet. So on that particular note, what Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh said, just listen.
See, it is a known fact that Tejas has got delayed. There is no doubt in it. We all know it. The first aim is not to let our aircraft strength go down. That means as we are reaching obsolescence of certain aircraft, the aircraft should be inducted parallelly. So a number of squadrons remain at least not below 30. So HAL has to keep the promise which they have made, that as far as Tejas Mark II and AMCA is concerned, they need to, we all need to learn our lessons, what happened in Mark 1, what all has caused the delays, and make sure agency, because HAL will also have its own limitation in terms of what it can do in a time frame. So with looking at the numbers that are involved, Mark 1As and expected Mark 2s and AMCA, we need to have private industry chipping in and coming in a big way to help out production challenges.
You have just listened to the Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, the Air Chief of Indian Air Force, and it's always very right about that. Most of the experts always say that Indian Air Chiefs are always very compliant, although we are very complacent when we are talking about Pakistan Air Force, but unfortunately Indian Air Force, as it is crippling down day by day because of when sometimes its squadrons are going to be plated, sometimes they have the fatal accidents and they are losing their aircrafts. Most of the times their aircrafts are grounded, as we have listened to the Chief of Defence Staff of the India, General Anil Chauhan, during Shangri-La dialogue there in Singapore, when he said that our Air Force was grounded for at least a couple of days, and then soon after we were in air. For what? They are in air after 2 days during the war. So air forces are always there to fight a war, not to be grounded. So Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, how do you see Indian Comptroller and Auditor General report tells that the research and development entities in India, 2/3 of the 175 projects, this is not a small number, 2/3 of the 175 projects have had delays of 16% to 500%. Indian Air Chief said, Amarpreet Singh said, that light combat aircraft, this Teja project, was laid in 1983-84. After 17 years, in 2001, it had the first flight, and then first aircraft was inducted in July 2016, again after 15 years. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL, still unable to give 40 aircrafts to Indian Air Force, despite they have American engine GE 404, that is General Electronics. So when we are talking about 40 years they have took to have 40 aircrafts. So what kind of production industry that is?
And those 48 aircraft has yet to be
Definitely.
inducted.
Definitely.
They are there
Definitely.
in the contract and payments and everything. And
Definitely.
okay, let's come to the one thing, that emphasis in India to indigenize is praiseworthy. That is one thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Now,
that's there.
the same was true about their space program. There was a time that one after the other rockets were, they were, malfunctioning, and it was looking impossible at one time for India to, have that space presence as it was desired. Now, similarly, 175 projects themselves mean that they must be Army, Air Force, Navy, and other
Obviously,
strategic
yes,
this thing
yes,
and all that.
yes.
And their delay, of course, is that it's a point of concern, because delay causes one thing, that at the present time you need certain capability that you had planned as a result of R&D, and you need it now. Delays are this thing that they then impact the strategic capability at this particular time. However, after they, for example, come out of this delay and do something which can accelerate their production and all that, that will be a time that India will be really a beneficial in this regard. But at this particular time, these delays are very, they are limiting, they are crippling according to this thing. And I think India is caught in this quagmire that, nothing quick can be done in this regard. You have to take that much of time and everything and this and that. And I think this is one of the very weak areas that Indian Air Force or Indian military as a whole is facing.
Now the question is, Raza Haider sahab, Indian Air Force, as Dr. Saab rightly said, crippling. With accidents first, now another challenge starts next month, with retirement of over 60 years old, the MiG-21 jets. In papers, Indian Air Force is actually sanctioned with the strength of 42 squadrons. Right now, Indian Air Force has only 31, including 13 Su-30 MKIs, then 3 MiG-29s, 2 MiG-21, which are going to be retired next month, then 6 Jaguars, 3 Mirage squadrons, 2 Rafales, and 2 Tejas squadrons, which are none of the business because they don't have much better avionics and all that. Indian Air Force have 11 squadrons, which are over 45 years old. After MiG-21, they would have 29 only. Till 2030-35, after plating 9 more squadrons and even Jaguars, Indian Air Force will be left with only 20 squadrons. Means half of the Indian Air Force will be vanished. So how do you see, because at the same time, what we technically and intelligently done is, we are also retiring our F-7P, F-7PGs and all others, even Mirages. But along with that, we are filling the space, we are inducting more squadrons of JF-17 Thunder and all others. So how do you see this Indian Air Force dilemma that they don't have the aircraft right now, but they have to retire the old airframes?
Faisal, very comprehensive question. So MiG-21, then shrinking squadrons, and then LCA.
Yes.
I'll answer in these 3 sequences. MiG-21, again an aging aircraft, procured in 1963. So it is more than 60 years.
Yes.
62 years almost. So it should have been retired by almost 10 years back. But anyway, not retired. And
lots of Abhinandans trained on those aircraft,
and
actually.
Out of 870 aircraft, 400 crashed,
Yes.
killed 170 pilots in due course of time.
Yes.
So this was used to be known as flying coffin or a widowmaker at that time, and so many lives have taken by this aircraft. And the reason is again the poor maintenance or the errors, pilot error and maintenance errors, poor training skills, ethics, culture. There are so many things. There are so many issues with Indian Air Force because of the aging fleet as well. Otherwise, as a ethical culture also probably seems because of these 2200 crashes which you mentioned. But MiG-21 again is now retiring next month finally, the remaining 2 squadrons at the Bison, because there were used to be 5 types of MiG-21s after the modification. The Bison
They
is
mostly call it MiG-21 BIS as well.
yeah, BIS also. So it is finally retiring next month. Coming to the second part, what will the result of that? Result is that, as you said, 42 sanctioned squadrons, today is 31. After the again 2 squadrons retiring, they will be reduced to 29. So they will be reduced to 29 next year. Then what is the replacement to that? The question is this. That was planned in 1984 as a LCA. Tija would be the replacement of MiG-21, of the Jaguar, of the Mirage 2000, of MiG-29. LCA was the main pivot of
That was conceived in 1983-84, what they were talking
yes.
about on
and that was actually the program which got delayed, and which Indian Air Chief is highlighting 40 aircraft in 40 years, or technology delayed, is technology denied. And he is very right on it. He is a thorough professional, and as a Air Chief, he should have said this.
And he is true gentleman,
True
no doubt about
gentleman,
that. Right?
he is telling the right thing, that I don't have a technology, in fact, to fight to the any Air Force. And he said this thing in actually February 2025,
Yes.
much before Operation Sindoor, where that technology delays, technology denied, that which is very clearly indication that I don't have that technology. So LCA Mark 1, as you said, 40, 48 delivered, could not be operationalized. Mark 1A, Mark 1A is still in the flight testing phase. It will be delivered somewhere end of next year. So by the end of next year, they will remain in the 29 squadrons.
And by the way, HAL never had heard the timeline. So
Yes.
there is no confirmation for that,
Expected
whether it is
delays.
going to be to met those deadlines or not.
Yes.
And these are the concerns actually Indian Air Chief was.
And Inner Chief said that no project has been delivered on time. He said this to HAL. So may Mark 1A next year, just flight testing completed, then production started maybe by 28, 30 it will be delivered. Then Mark 2, whose timeline is 28, then MCA timeline is 35. So as Sir Mujaddid said, that they are actually now in a trap, in a loop, where they would not be able to fill the gap which MiG-21 or the Jaguars would be creating.
So from Tejas, LCA, MK1 or other variants, let's have another case. That is, Indian Air Force ordered actually 83 Tejas LCA Mark 1 in 2021, but delivered delayed again and again since 4 years. Now it's still 2028, again delay. Indian Air Force ordered or going to order 97 Tejas MK1A, but that's also an illusion. Now reports suggest that HAL will manage to deliver these 170 jets all at once. If they have not delivered the in parts, now all at once, they are talking about 2031. Means Indian Air Force will be without Tejas till 2028. With production, industry follows, and with other flaws and shortcomings as well. These are there. The production lines, some of the production lines are still not in a way that they are not actually doing something. Production lines are there, but only the lines, not the production. So what about this whole scenario through which, because India has lots of dilemmas, and this is the one.
Okay, that's a very, very good dimension to look into. You see, all air forces in every country operate under a political system.
Yes.
It is the national leadership who is responsible to ensure that their forces are well equipped and they are timely equipped. In case of India, if you recall the statement of their Prime Minister after they met the debacle in February 2019. And what did he say? That once we will have Rafale and then we will see. This is a childish statement coming from head of the country who has no idea where his Air Force, he had no idea at that time also that what was the capability of his Air Force.
But only the head can't do, must have brain also.
That's true. I mean, he had no, whatever. What I'm trying to say is that these Mr. Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh is very fine professional and a very good leader, but he is operating, operating under a political system that has no idea whatsoever. Even the students would have that what their Air Force should be, and why it is suicidal, why it is strategic, because in this time, he asked for whatever treatment the India as a whole and the Indian Air Force got. That he demanded from the Air Force, who was conveying that, look, we are not ready.
Yes.
They are not cowards. No, they said that we are not operationally ready with all these limitations. So how are you telling us to take on this operation? And the result is obvious. Can you hear an Air Force that is 3-4 times bigger than us in numerics and everything else, and our action grounds them? Grounds Indian Air Force, accepted by the Chief of Defence Staff?
Yes.
I mean, this is something that India, I mean, they should think about it.
Definitely.
I mean, the whole Air Force is grounded, and just because of an action, and then they say that and they accept it, and they have no qualms about it. They say it openly that, well, we grounded our Air Force. After all, there must be some compelling factors from our
the
side.
Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, he clearly said that there were some problems. We grounded our Air Force. We rectified those problems, and then we were again in air. So the thing is that he was actually accepting that their Air Force was null and void.
That's what I'm saying. This is the biggest proof that such a sophisticated Air Force.
And the problem was not with the aircraft. Actually, the problem was with the brain. Actually,
that's
with the
what
mentality.
I'm saying.
This was basically the problem, and that political problem still exists. We have listened during the monsoon session and the special session on so-called Operation Sindoor. What their Prime Minister, total lies and bluffs, those were going on and before their whole of the nation. They are such a coward people that they are actually bluffing whole of the nation and not giving them the realities. So far away from the ground realities. Air Commodore Raza Haider Sahab, Indian Air Force operating 2 Tejas squadrons currently with no significance, facing difficulties, faults, flying with initial operational clearance, that is IOC, and not full operational clearance, the FOC, what we call. Ordering 67 squadrons of LCA Tejas Mark II, then some squadrons of 5th generation advanced medium combat aircraft, that is AMCA. Looks a distant dream, at least till 2035. Here, Indian Air Force has at least 10 to 15 years of gap with Pakistan Air Force. With Indian Air Force actually crippling, while Indian Air Force leadership lacks faith in their production industry, and particularly the public sector entity HAL.
Okay, so now we are switching our topic to the industry, aviation industry of India. HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Actually, Indian Air Force Chief AP Singh's one statement is, even if we have a capability, we don't have a capacity to produce. And he was actually saying it to the HAL. ADA, Aeronautical Development Agency, is responsible for designing, and HAL is responsible for production.
Yes.
LCA was designed by ADA, supposed to be produced by HAL, which HAL could not produce, and now there are the finger pointing on the HAL's performance.
Definitely.
Repeatedly by the Indian Air Force Chief. On 30th May, actually, if you listen to the speech of Indian Air Force Chief this year, he was clearly targeting HAL, and they were talking about the AMCA program,
yes,
their 5th generation program, Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. AMCA program they have launched in 2012. Till date, it is not even in conceptual design phase. And what we talk about the production. Now they are planning to give it to the private party for the production, including the HAL, but still even the first flight would not be before 2035. So now, aircraft retiring, MiG-21 retiring, Jaguars retiring, as you mentioned, squadrons would be shrinking by around 20 by that time, by 2035. LCA-1 Mark A getting delays, Mark II is not anywhere in the picture, AMCA is just in the conceptual design phase, not coming before 2035. Now, another question is, even if AMCA would be there in 2035 and operationalized by 2040, will it be relevant by that time? With the changing character of war, these aircraft, which is the 4.5 gen or 5th gen, and today China has already developed the 6th gen fighter, the USA is developing, and 6th generation fighter would be very soon operationalized by another 3-4 years in the air forces. and India would be producing 5th gen or 4.5 gen in 2040. So these are also question marks on the AMCA as well. Now filling these gap by the India is a question. India is trying to fill these operational gap through the procurements, and they are considering Su-57 and F-35 and more Rafales as well. But as yesterday tariffs by the USA is also hinting towards the procurement of the equipment from the Russia. So Su-57 would not be a smooth ride as well. F-35 would not be maybe economical to even maintain or produce. So there are so many issues encountering with India. To fill the gap through procurement is also getting difficult. To produce the local aircraft is also getting difficult because of the hull capacity, and still India is in dilemma.
So, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, India is still debating that why 35 Rafale jets and why not 126 at that time. When Modi made a hilarious statements, as you have just referred about, after Pakistan trashed their MiG-21 and Su-30 MKIs in an aerial dogfight, and that if India had the Rafale aircrafts at that time on 27th of February 2019, the result would have been different. Even when India got Rafales, this whole result, nothing changed even. And the result was on 7th May at, that was the same as of Operation Swift Retort, even more than that really. So what's really the problem with India? What's really the problem with the Indian leadership right now? That they are basically the belligerents. They are those who are having misadventures. They are the ones who have the hegemonic designs. They are the extremists. They are state-sponsored terrorism across the region. Pakistan is the huge sufferer. Globally, different countries like United States, UK, Five Eyes report is very clear that India is the one which is actually spreading terrorism across the world. So what's the problem with India right now? They are problematic not only for the region, for the world, but also problematic for their own people, for their own entities.
India is geographically and population-wise a great country, and the problem with India is that their mindset is very trivial. It does not correspond to the mindset of a great country or great power. They are their leadership is immature-ish. They want to prove their greatness with very, very trivial and small matters, and even that they cannot do. You are very right that if, okay, Rafale were needed, now, and without Rafale, that was the condition. Now, after Rafales have been inducted into the Indian Air Force, they had to ground the whole Air Force for 2 days as per their Chief of Defence Staff, Anil Chauhan Sahab.
The result would have been different. Means that earlier, when the Su-30 MKI or MiG-21 or all the others, those were actually shot down. But this time, Rafales were grounded. So different results are entirely different.
No, I'm saying that Rafales are, and Air Force is, the air grounding of a whole Air Force. What to talk of 2 days for an hour is a very great thing, and that is the result of a big thrashing from the opposite.
On 6th of May, 33 aircraft, 33 Rafale aircraft were airborne. 33. 3 to 4 aircrafts were shot down. 29 were grounded next day. And those were all grounded till the next 9th or 10th.
Not only those 29 that were grounded, the Anil Chauhan Saab means that their whole Air Force was grounded.
Yes.
And that Air Force comprises such nice aircraft like Mirage 2000s, MiG Su-30, MiG-29s, grand this thing. Why they were all grounded? Now, what we are trying to tell you is that it was really something that made them not fly, and that is a great success for the Pakistan Air Force. Okay, whatever happened, but what did it cause? Complete paralysis. In the strategic terms, it is called paralysis of a force, that that force has no options to act. That means get grounded.
So quickly, we have run short of time, so very quickly, very brief. Isn't it that the Indian Air Force, now a glaring example of institutional collapse, and strategic incompetence. Crippled by Hal's chronic delays, you have rightly mentioned, the paralyzed by infighting actually, and between the top brass and the defense industry as well, and utterly directionless under a civilian leadership that seems incapable, indifferent, or might be both.
I fully agree with the whole statement that you said, each and every word of it. Actually, this is it. There is a collapse, there is a crippling, and the highest level, that is strategic level of India, that means political leadership and the highest military leadership, they are unable to create a system to defend India in entirety. And that is, and now it is open to or known to the Indian public, and I think over a period of time, the trust of Indian public in its leadership and military,
it's already eroded.
It is already eroded.
Yes. Air Commodore Raza Haider Sahab, what does the Indian Air Force, despite being 4 times larger than Pakistan Air Force, still rely on the false flag operations and the fabricated victories to boost their morale actually, exposing its deep operational weaknesses, outdated mindset, and the failure to match Pakistan Air Force edge in training, leadership, even beyond visual range warfare, and modern doctrines like multi-domain operation, environment, and electromagnetic spectrum dominance and overall?
Ji, Faisal sir, it's a comparative question. Indian Air Force is a big Air Force. They have the numerical superiority against the Pakistan Air Force, and the biggest advantage they have that they don't have any fear of sanctions. They can buy the equipment from any part of the world, either from the France, USA, Russia, Israel.
Yes, they have lots of leverages to have that
leverage
really. Yes.
But the issue is probably that they are fighting a war for the Hindutva ideology, not for the India, not for the nation.
No doubt.
They are fighting a political war probably, and that is directly related to the motivation of the people who are fighting that war. Coming to the Pakistani side, we concentrated towards the quality. Pakistan Air Force concentrates on the high quality training, the quality training of the pilots, for the engineers, for the complete fleet, all personnel. Then the equipment, high quality equipment. We always have like J-10, JF-17, F-16, Mirages. Always we have a quality equipment. Then quality leadership, the visionary leadership. Then the strategy, that is the multi-domain operation. This time we utilized.
Definitely.
And then we have the cause. We have the spirit. We fight for the cause of the nation. And that probably resulted into the 6-0 result on that day, and the grounding of Indian Air Force as we talk about next day.
Thank you very much, Air Commodore retired Raza Haider Sahab, for your presence here. Thank you very much,
welcome,
Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid Sahab, for your presence and very candid views. Viewers, you have just listened to our panelists. It is important to note that Indian institutions are actually collapsed, and systematically, significantly, they are incompetent, and unfortunately their whole of the dynamics are actually paralyzed, and that infighting with among each other and the top brass and the defense industry as well, and utterly the directionless civilian leadership is blaming different countries and other nations and states for their own failures, and actually they are totally insecure and insane when they are claiming that they are the ones who are the net security providers. Unfortunately, they are basically the net security spoilers, and they are the one through them to whom whole of the region is actually under threat. And it is because particularly the smaller countries like Nepal, like Bangladesh, like Bhutan, like Maldives and all others. So whole of the region must have to think, and whole of the world must have to think. And what is the plight of Indian Air Force? It's pathetic really. And it is not because of Indian Air Force leadership might be, it is because of the political leadership, and particularly the extremist Hindutva, extremist terrorist ideology which is right now prevailing in India, in Delhi, Mr. Modi, the Amit Shah, the Rajnath Singh, the Ajit Doval, the Subramaniam Jaishankar. This is the Pentagon of five, and this is actually destroying whole of the India and Indian fabric there, and even the Indian Armed Forces. And the glaring example is the Indian Air Force. And because of that leadership, because leadership must have the head, and head must have inside the brain. That is very important, which BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, actually lacks. And when we see the Indian mentality, it requires intelligence, it requires education, the academics, the real-time thinking for the future. And unfortunately, they are not thinking about their future. They are just thinking about one state election, then the other state election, and for that, they are having the false flag operations, and for that, they are having some sort of misadventures against their neighboring countries. We have lots of examples in the near past, particularly what happened on 6th and 7th of May, when Pakistan has actually given a befitting response to India, but India is not actually calculating what happened, how they lost that war, what type of defeat they have faced, but they are still talking about something in illusion, and they are still in illusion, but the realities and the ground realities are entirely different. So this is all from today's Foresight. Now it's you to have some sort of conclusion, because what is happening in future with the Indian Air Force. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.